Hello students, welcome to the World of Biology through Jaguar classes. Now in today's class, I will continue with the chapter 6, life processes, and this is part 3rd in which I will focus on respiration as a life process. The subtopics which will be covered during this class: respiration as a life process, which is a catabolic process that we have already studied in earlier class; external respiration as breathing; and internal respiration as cellular respiration. Then we will try to know types of cellular respiration in the form of aerobic and anaerobic respiration, human respiratory system and its different parts, respiration in plants as well as respiration in other animals. We will try to know in this chapter or in today's class. There will be these expected learning outcomes, in which knowledge based learning outcomes, where you will be able to define respiration as catabolic process. You can be able to differentiate between breathing and cellular respiration, and you can also be able to differentiate between aerobic and anaerobic respiration as different types of respiration. You will also be able to compare between respiration in animals and plants and comparison between respiration in humans and other animals. You will be able to explain and describe role of different parts of human respiratory system. Side by side these knowledge based learning outcomes, the skill based learning outcomes that you will learn after this class: diagrammatic explanation of human respiratory system by applying the knowledge with drawing skills, and analytical as well as creative thinking skills by drawing concept maps, mind maps, flowcharts related with the topics or concepts that you will learn during today's class. We will cover up that topic respiration in 3 parts. In this class, we will take the topic in 3 sections. In first section, I will discuss with you the important steps of respiration, different pathways of respiration in human beings with the help of 3 slides. Then we will go for our video section, in which we will see 3-4 videos to understand the concepts related with respiration in humans, respiration in plants and respiration in other animals, how they are different in different organisms. And then we will come to our last section, that is concluding section, in which we will learn that how much we have learned with the help of question answers or with the help of certain practice exercises. Now move to the first section with first slide. Here in this slide you can see that in the figure human respiratory system diagram is given, where the modified, or we can say that magnified, structure of alveoli is shown here, which is the elaborated part of our lungs, and it is actually maximizes the surface area of exchange of gases between our blood and lungs. Now we will learn about that system in detail in next section. And as you know that in earlier class also you have studied, respiration is a catabolic process where complex molecule is breaking down into simpler molecules, and that's why in earlier section we have already defined the respiration as it is a, we can say that during respiration the digested food, whatever food we have digested during our nutrition process, now in this life process the digested food material, that is glucose, is broken down to smaller or simpler more simpler substances. Glucose is also a simpler substance. Now it is converted into more simpler substances, and then it will be able to release energy in the form of ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, which is our energy currency of our cell or our body, with the help of which we are doing so many functions. Now, this process of respiration is done in two steps in humans. The first step is known as breathing. Breathing is also known as external respiration, or it is the first phase of respiration, where exchange of gases between the atmosphere and the respiratory system is going on. And second part of or second phase of our respiration is cellular respiration, where the glucose is breaking down with the help of oxygen or without oxygen also sometimes inside the cells to release energy. In unicellular organism, only cellular respiration takes place by the process of diffusion, and it involves taking in oxygen of air into the cells and using it for releasing energy by burning food, and then eliminating the waste products in the form of carbon dioxide and water from the body. And now come to the next slide, where you can see that the types of cellular respiration can be further studied in two different types. One type is known as aerobic respiration, which takes place in the presence of oxygen. That's why it is considered as aerobic. And then second type of respiration is anaerobic respiration, which takes place in the absence of oxygen. But here you can see that how this aerobic and anaerobic respiration is this part, or we can say that cellular respiration is divided into three pathways. Means glucose is breaking down into three pathways. Out of these three pathways, this first one and this second one, means in the absence of oxygen and in the lack of oxygen, are considered as anaerobic pathway, and this is presence of oxygen in mitochondria. That is the aerobic pathway of glucose breakdown. Now try to understand the basic steps of glucose breakdown. In higher classes, you will study about more complex steps are also involved in this process that you will study later on, but here you try to know the basic steps. The first step of glucose breakdown is that glucose inside the cell, which is a 6-carbon molecule, first of all inside in the cytoplasm of the cell, getting converted into or breaking down into pyruvate, which is a 3-carbon molecule with partial release of energy also. Now, after that, this step is common in aerobic as well as anaerobic type of respiration, but after that pyruvate formation, it is further breaking down into three pathways. These are the three pathways. First pathway, in the absence of oxygen, like in case of yeast and certain other anaerobic bacteria or microbes, that pyruvate is further break down into 2-carbon molecule known as ethanol, and byproducts carbon dioxide is released with release of energy here. And in second pathway, you can see that lack of oxygen. Lack of oxygen means the amount of oxygen which is reaching to the cell is not appropriate as per requirement, like in case of our during some vigorous exercise in our muscle cells, that muscular cramps can develop due to this type of or this pathway of respiration, where pyruvate is converted into lactic acid, and that lactic acid accumulation comes in our muscles and muscle cramps. And here also the energy is released, and this lactic acid is a 3-carbon molecule. And the third pathway is considered as the aerobic pathway of glucose breakdown, where pyruvate molecule in the presence of oxygen inside the mitochondria converted into carbon dioxide, water and energy. As compared to these two pathways, here the more amount of energy is released. That you should know. And now we will try to learn it in more detail in other sections or next sections. Now come to this slide. Here you can see that structure of our respiratory system. And in our respiratory system, in humans, basically air takes the path after entering the nostrils. It passes to nasal passage to pharynx, then it comes into the larynx, and then trachea, and then bronchus, bronchiole, and ultimately it reaches to our alveolus or alveoli. Now see here, this is the first part of our respiratory tract, that is nose or mouth, where the inhaled air get warmed, moistened, filtered through the air present in our nostrils, and then it comes into the pharynx region, which is the common part of the food pipe as well as windpipe, and then it passes through the trachea to the next part, that is larynx, which is also considered as voice box, and location of vocal cords is here, which helps to form our speech. During this passage of air, it also converts into speech formation also when we are speaking. Then from larynx it passes to trachea or windpipe. It is a structure to keep airways open and lined with cilia or to filter the air, as well as cilia also helps to spread the mucus around that. Inside ciliated epithelium is present, and that brush border cells helps to spread the mucus all over the respiratory tract to trap the microbes or dust particles which are present in our inhaled air. Then it comes to bronchi, which are two branches of our trachea through which that enters into our lung, and these one of each branch enters into our each lung, and inside the lungs these are further branched into primary, the secondary or tertiary branches, which are known as bronchioles, and these are the small branches of bronchi. And then it is reached up to the alveoli, which are the terminal ends of our respiratory tracts, in the form of air sacs, where gas exchange between our blood cells, or we can say that blood capillaries and lungs, is going on. And that system is supported by diaphragm, which is muscle at the base of rib cage, and that helps to fill lungs with air. Now with that, in this section we have learned the basic concept related with human respiration. Now come to the next section of today's class, where we will learn the more facts about the respiration in other animals as well as in plants, and we will compare it with the humans also. With the help of these videos you will be able to try much better. Section of this class in which we will see some videos related with the respiration. Now I am playing this video.
Our body needs energy to perform various activities such as growth, movement, and repair. This energy is derived from the oxidation of food. The food in the body is digested and converted into glucose and other simple compounds. Glucose is then oxidized in the cells to release energy, carbon dioxide, and water. This process of oxidation of glucose is called respiration. Respiration involves two steps: external respiration or breathing, and internal or cellular respiration. Let us learn about these two steps in detail. The process of inhaling air containing oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide produced during oxidation of food is called breathing. When we inhale air, the intercostal muscles between the ribs contract. This raises the ribs upward and outward. At the same time, the dome-shaped diaphragm contracts and flattens as it moves downwards. The contraction of the intercostal muscles and the diaphragm increases the volume of the thorax. As the volume of the thorax expands, the lungs stretch out and expand. As a result, the pressure inside the lungs drops below the atmospheric pressure. Since air flows from a region of high pressure to a region of low pressure, the atmospheric air moves in to equalize the pressure. After air has filled the lungs, the exchange of gas takes place between the alveoli and blood. During expiration, reverse movements of the diaphragm and ribs occur. The external intercostal muscles relax and the ribs move downward and inward. The diaphragm also relaxes and moves upwards to retain its dome-shaped outline. These movements decrease the volume of the thorax and it returns to its original shape. As a result, the lungs are compressed and the volume within the lungs is decreased. This decrease in the volume increases the pressure of air within the lungs and the air is forced out into the atmosphere.
Now here you have seen that mechanism of respiration in humans.
Cellular respiration involves the intake of oxygen by the tissue cells followed by the oxidation of glucose. It results in the production of carbon dioxide, water, and energy. When cellular respiration occurs in the presence of oxygen, it is called aerobic respiration. When it occurs in the absence of oxygen, it is called anaerobic respiration. First, a glucose molecule is broken down into two molecules of pyruvate. This process is called glycolysis and occurs in the cytoplasm of the cell. What happens next to the pyruvate molecules depends on the availability of oxygen. In the presence of oxygen, the pyruvate molecules enter the mitochondria and each molecule is completely oxidized into carbon dioxide and water in 3 steps: pyruvate oxidation, Krebs cycle, and respiratory chain. In pyruvate oxidation, pyruvate is converted into acetyl coenzyme A. In the Krebs cycle, acetyl coenzyme A undergoes a cycle of reactions to produce hydrogen. In the respiratory chain, hydrogen undergoes a series of reactions to produce adenosine triphosphate or ATP. These molecules are responsible for producing energy. The complete breakdown of a single molecule of glucose produces 38 ATP molecules. In the absence of oxygen, the pyruvate molecules are converted to ethanol and carbon dioxide in the cytoplasm. In this process, less energy is produced because of incomplete oxidation of food. Anaerobic respiration is found in lower organisms, such as yeast and bacteria, and parasitic microorganisms, such as tapeworm. The energy produced during cellular respiration is utilized for various metabolic activities, and the carbon dioxide is eliminated via expiration.
Yes. Now by this video you are clear about the respiration process as a cellular respiration. Now come to the next video with the help of which you will be able to know about the respiration in plants.
Respiration of plants during the night. All living things need energy to live. For energy to be released in a living organism, glucose must be oxidized. In other words, glucose needs to be burnt biologically to release energy. All living organisms take in the oxygen that is necessary for the oxidation of glucose through a process known as respiration. Oxygen will react with glucose to release energy. The byproducts from this reaction are carbon dioxide and water. Because most cells respire by taking in oxygen from the air, it is often referred to as aerobic respiration. Plants photosynthesize their food during the daytime when there is sunlight available. When the sunlight is absent, photosynthesis will temporarily stop. But respiration will continue even through the night. During photosynthesis, plants will release oxygen. But during respiration, like animals, plants will take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. Plants do not have specialized organs or tissues for respiration. Instead, the surfaces of leaves and stems are filled with minute pores known as stomata. Oxygen is absorbed from the atmosphere through the stomata. Leaves contain numerous stomata and spongy mesophyll tissue. The oxygen will enter the stomata and then diffuse into the spongy mesophyll tissue. The cells of the mesophyll contain mitochondria, the powerhouses of a cell. In the mitochondria, oxygen will react with glucose in a biochemical process called Krebs cycle, which occurs after glycolysis in cytoplasm. During this process, there is release of energy, carbon dioxide, and water vapor. While the energy is used by the plant, carbon dioxide and water vapor will diffuse out through the stomata. Summary: all living organisms respire in order to release energy from glucose. Oxygen enters a plant through the stomata and reacts with glucose in the mitochondria of the cells. During photosynthesis, plants take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen, while during respiration, they take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. During the daytime, plants photosynthesize and also respire. During the nighttime, plants only respire.
Now come to the next video, which is related with the respiration in humans, in which you will see that how our respiratory system works.
Respiration in humans. Respiration is the process of taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. It is through this process that all living organisms take in oxygen that is necessary for the oxidation of glucose. Let's look at the path air travels as it moves through the respiratory system of animals. To follow this path, we will use the human respiratory system as our example. The respiratory organs of humans are the lungs. These sac-like organs are pink in color and found in thoracic cavity. As we inhale air, it will reach the lungs where the oxygen will be exchanged for carbon dioxide, which we will then exhale. In order for the air to reach the lungs, it has a long way to travel. The nose is the entry point for air moving into respiratory system. Your nose opens into a cavity above the upper jaw and then into a space called the pharynx. The pharynx is the common pathway for both food and air. The pharynx continues into a tube known as the trachea. Connecting the pharynx to the trachea is the larynx, commonly known as the voice box. The trachea extends downward and divides into right and left bronchi that are also in the thoracic cavity. Each bronchus will lead into a lung, and as it enters, it will divide further into bronchioles and alveolar ducts, which end as alveoli. Alveoli are tiny grape-like sacs, inside which the exchange of the oxygen and carbon dioxide gases takes place. Now let's take a look at what's actually taking place when you breathe. As you breathe in the diaphragm, a muscle lying across the bottom of the chest cavity will begin contracting. As a result, the rib cage will lift and expand. This will increase the space inside the thoracic cavity and lungs. Oxygen-rich air will be pulled into the lungs through the nose by the process of inspiration. Oxygen will move out of the alveoli and into the tissues, while carbon dioxide will move into the alveoli. As the diaphragm relaxes, the lungs will return to the normal size. Air with carbon dioxide will be pumped out of the lungs in the process known as expiration. As inspiration and expiration continue, the carbon dioxide will leave our bodies and the oxygen we need will be brought in and sent to the tissues. Summary: all living organisms respire in order to release energy from glucose. The respiratory organs of humans are the lungs. Alveoli are tiny grape-like sacs in which the exchange of gases takes place. Drawing air into lungs is the process of inspiration. Exhaling air is the process of expiration.
Now come to know that how this process of respiration taking place in other organisms in which through this video you will be able to understand.
We've learnt that all living organisms need oxygen for aerobic respiration. Human beings inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide.
These are our bronchioles, and these bronchioles terminated at alveolus, and this is the magnified structure of alveolus.
This gas exchange takes place in the lungs when we breathe. But not all organisms have lungs like we do. So how do organisms that do not have lungs manage this gas exchange?
Now,
Click each image to learn more about the gas exchange process in different organisms.
first of all, we will try to know that in sponges and jellyfish how
Sponges have pore-covered bodies through which they take in water, food and oxygen. The oxygen is absorbed directly from the water into the cells. Jellyfish also absorb oxygen from the water and give out carbon dioxide directly through their skin.
Now, how the plants are taking their oxygen?
Plants obtain the oxygen they need for respiration directly through tiny pore-like openings called stomata on their surfaces. The roots of a plant also obtain oxygen from air spaces in the soil.
Now this is the fact that you should know, that if you give too much water to a plant in a pot, you could kill the roots by drowning them. Now come to the earthworm. How these animals do
The wet
respiration.
and slimy earthworm has no lungs or nose. Moisture on the surface of the worm's skin helps it absorb oxygen directly from the atmosphere. The oxygen passes through the worm's thin skin and enters the blood.
And now try to know that in amphibians like frogs, how the process.
Amphibians are creatures that can live both on land and in water. For example, frogs. Frogs can breathe through their moist outer skin, but they also have a simple pair of lungs.
Now come to know about the fish.
Fish and other aquatic animals have developed highly efficient gills to extract oxygen from water. Each gill has many minute folds in its surface and is filled with tiny blood capillaries.
And unlike humans, who can only breathe in and out alternately, the gas exchange in fish takes place continuously as water flows constantly over the gills while the fish moves. Now come to the insects.
In insects, the gas exchange happens via a system of tubes called tracheae. Air enters the tracheae through pores called spiracles on each side of the insect's abdomen. This limits the amount of oxygen they can take in, which is why insects don't grow to very large sizes.
And here is also a fact. It is believed that in prehistoric times, when there was more oxygen in the atmosphere, insects could grow to much larger sizes. Now come to
Insects such as water scorpions and water stick insects breathe with the help of a siphon. The siphon or breathing tube is used to take in oxygen from the surface of the water.
and in beetle-like insects.
Water beetles can stay underwater for long periods because they have a cavity under their abdomens in which they can hold a bubble of air.
And in this, you can see that fact. Water spiders weave a spherical container under the water attached to water plants. This is used to store air collected from the surface of the water. With that, we have learned or tried to learn various facts about the respiration in humans as well as in plants and other animals. Now, in the last section, at the end, we will self-analyze ourselves. What have we learned from this class? Come to the question answer section. Here is the first question. Which of the following organisms get a significant percentage of oxygen by breathing through the skin or body surface? What is the correct answer for this question? Solution is earthworms and frogs. Both are the organisms in which you can see that through body surface exchange is going. Now the second question is, why should you avoid overwatering the plants? Yes, solution is there are the two reasons. It can fill the air spaces in soil with water and roots will not be able to respire due to that. That's why overwatering should be avoided. Now come to the third question. Which of these aquatic animals does not breathe using gills? Yes, the correct answer is dolphin, because dolphin is a mammal and it breath through lungs. All these three are coming in the fishes category. That's why they are breathing through gills. Now come to the fourth question. Insects breathe through a number of openings called, yes. What is the correct answer? This. Let's see. Yes, this is the correct answer. Now come to the fifth question. How do dolphins breathe? They take in oxygen dissolved in water or take in oxygen from the air? Solution is take in oxygen from the air. Sixth question. The organism and its mode of respiration are paired. Pick the one that is not paired correctly. Yes, the solution is snake through skin. Check your answer. Excessive watering of plants should be avoided because, yes, think over the answer of this question. Yes, the solution is the excess water fills the soil pores with water living no oxygen for the plant roots to respire. In earlier question, we have already seen that question in another form, and the same question repeated here in but another form. Now come to this question number 8. Which of the following structures are used for breathing in different living organisms? Yes, the answer is trachea, lungs and gills. Veins is the part of our circulatory system. It is not the organ of respiration or breathing. Now come to the ninth question. What are the different organs of respiration in frogs? Yes. Solution is skin and lungs. Through moist skin also they are doing exchange, and lungs is also one of the important part like other. Now come to the 12th question. 10th question. Which of the following organisms breathe using spiracles and trachea? I think you will be able to say the correct answer. Yes, the answer is grasshopper. Let's check our answer. Grasshoppers. Now come to the how do roots of plants breathe? Yes, try to recall. In one of the video we have already shared that. Yes, the solution is by taking up air from spaces between soil particles. The roots of plants take up air from spaces between soil particles. This is why plants cannot grow in waterlogged soils that do not have air spaces. With that, we have finished our today's class. I hope that you will be able to understand the concept of respiration in a proper way. Thank you and have a nice day. Complete your assignment and worksheet attached with that link. Try to solve it on time. Okay.